We are live, everyone. Good morning, after night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. My name is David East. I work on the Firebases, and I am joined today by my most knowledgeable Firebase friend right there, Jeff Delaney.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
So thank you all for. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Were you saying something?
Oh no, nothing.
Okay. They want to step on your toes there. So today, what we are.
And sorry about that.
No, it's all good. So today we are going to build off the last video we did. So if you actually, this I feel like would be a really good time to do like a 1990s recap of like a show, or be like last time on Jeff and David build. But last time we took a Firestore database and we basically mocked it up to build this JavaScript Jeopardy app, which is something that Jeff and I are particularly excited about, building this app to run this like live stream app event, but where you basically answer Jeopardy style questions, so like a game show. And so today we want to build off of that database structure we set up, and we want to just start mocking out the UI, and we're doing it all in Svelte. And there's a bit of a twist today because Jeff knows a lot about Svelte, and I know nothing. Well, I know next to nothing, but it's closer to nothing.
Yeah, and if you know Angular or React or any of those frameworks, you kind of know Svelte to a pretty good degree, just because a lot of its features are very similar to these other reactive frameworks out there.
Yes, I'm excited to kind of just like type and be a little clueless. And you saw, yeah, I'm going to drive, and then Jeff is going to, be like that parent trying to teach you how to drive for the first time. That's like, okay, all right, let's just take this really easy. Let's put it into drive. Oh no, what are you doing? No, just kidding.
Right, and I've tried to make the integration between Svelte and Firebase really easy, and by doing that, I created a library called Svelte Fire, which you can find on GitHub, and it basically provides a bunch of different components that automatically manage your like Firestore documents, your collections, your user authentication. So you can basically just put all of your actual real-time data in the UI without ever having to manage streams or like subscriptions or any of that stuff. So we'll be able to look at some of that today.
I'm excited that you did that because that's going to make things a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. I use it for my own projects, and it simplifies a lot of things. It's not necessarily right for every use case, but it is very useful a lot of the times.
I mean, it's very declarative, and I'm a big fan of that. I like just being able to be like, here's your app, here's your thing, here's this in the tag, and visually it's easy to see what's going on versus kind of like imperatively shoving that code in like underneath, a rug somewhere.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So the way we're going to go about this stream is, like I said, I'm going to test drive, but we're going to address your comments like in all one big batch. So we focus and give you the best show possible. So make sure to still ask us questions. We're going to get to them, and but when we get to them, we're going to get to all of them. And I guess I'll start out with just two questions. We have Arjun. What's up, Arjun? And Arjun asked if I've been watching The Last Dance, and oh yeah. That's definitely a thing in my life. I'm very excited for the last two on Sunday. It's been amazing. Jeff, you've been watching The Last Dance?
No, I can't say I have.
Oh, it's so good. You don't even have to like sports. It's so good. My wife, not a sports person, and I was watching it, and she was like around, and then she was kind of doing that thing where she was like, just looking, and then she like really sat down, and then now she's totally into it. And then they show 2 episodes of it at a time, and each are an hour long. So after the first one was over, my wife was like, oh, and I was like, don't worry, there's a second one. She was like, oh God.
Nice. And this is the Michael Jordan documentary?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out.
And Preet asked if you increase the volume on your microphone.
Yeah, I can do that.
I can hear you good, but then again, I'm in the studio, so
is that any better?
You have to let us know, Preet. Because I think it's good, but I'm not having that problem, so I wouldn't know. All right, so I think it's tradition in my live streams for me to meander for about 5 minutes before touching any code. So it's good that I kept that going. So keep your questions going, but now we are jumping into the code. All right.
Okay, cool.
Oh, wait. Arjun says no. Got to up it more.
Oh, it is better now, or I'll try to tweak it.
Now,
Just let me know in the comments if it.
The review says it's better now, and the original OP right here says sounds good.
Okay, nice.
I'm really getting into this. All right, let me hide this little banner here. All right, because I need. We are in code mode. All right, so this is. And y'all are gonna have to. So I'm getting out of the control room, so I have no idea what's going on. So if something bad happens, Jeff, you gotta let me know in the comment. People in the comments, let me know. But so we're in the control room, and we have right here, as you can see, we have this project. Actually, call it the drawer, and there's nothing too crazy at all. We got this public folder. We have this, which is like a lot of static assets, and we have this app.svelte. The main.js, which is that, yeah, it's like that's the bootstrapping of Svelte, which is just going to take over the whole body. And we look at index.html. So an index.html, that's just it, just going to take over the body right here. And yeah, and then we have a rollup config because it's Svelte, and you can't use Svelte without rollup, which I think you can, but like I meant that more like,
Yeah, you can use it with Webpack as well.
Right. Yeah, that's not factual. That's just more like you can't. Yeah.
Right.
I'll stop.
You should use Rollup. I mean, Rollup tends to be the better option in most cases.
Right, and I imagine that Rollup and Svelte are really well suited for each other, seeing how they're made by the same person and team of people. So,
right.
But here we are in our SFC single file component. One of the cool parts of Svelte is that Svelte, I saw that post by Rich Harris, this little clever gist that was like, I've been lying to you the whole time about Svelte. It's not a framework, it's a programming language. And I was like, oh snap, that's deep.
Right.
And it kind of is. It has its own file extension. It's got its own way of working.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely has its own like special things kind of mixed in here, but for the most part, it's very similar to working with vanilla JavaScript.
It is.
That's why, even though it has these sort of like it's a special kind of thing because it's a compiler and all that stuff, it does feel very much like you're working with plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
It does. It is. It's like does all the smarts for you, which is really nice.
Right.
So here we are, we're importing from SvelteFire, Jeff's creation. And then we have Firebase SDK imports, and we have Firebase config, and we initialize. And then we have this styles right here. And then down here is sort of, I don't want to say the guts, but it's like, this is our main markup of the app. So we have this Firebase app, which will, actually, this is a good question I have for you. So I imagine that Firebase app and passing in this is props for everybody. It's like kind of assigning properties, attributes, whatever. Oh, I see. That is interesting. Now that I look at it. So what you're doing here is you have Firebase app get initialized, but then you pass the app into the app.
Right. So Firebase app uses the context API. So if there's any React developers out there, it works exactly the same as React context, where you can kind of inject things into the component tree and have context to them. So this allows you to have multiple Firebase apps in the same Svelte app.
Yes. I imagine that this was going to initialize the app, but if you initialize the app, you do sort of, while you get that convenience out of it, if you just put like the config in here and it did it behind the scenes, you would have to put in like the name and all that. So you're just going with the, hey, let me just store this thing in context.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like say you had two Firestore databases on separate projects, you could hypothetically use both of those databases in the same Svelte app. Yeah,
totally. All right, so let's see here. So we have Firebase app. So what is the structure? I'm trying to remember. So this is using JavaScript Jeopardy. So we have, let's do this right here.
The first thing I would probably do is set up some user authentication.
Oh yeah,
so we have a way for a user to log in, and then we'll show the actual main UI when the user is logged in. But I think right now, we can get that taken care of because when the user first lands on this page, they'll have to log in to even participate in the actual game itself.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's do that. So interesting. So we have this app right here. And this is just a habit of mine. I like to turn the Firebase app. And so what we would do here is I would
So actually don't change the name of that. Well, the reason I would say don't change the name is because we're using it as a prop to the Firebase app component itself. So we have to change the name of that prop if we did that.
Oh, because this is, well, wouldn't it be from this one right here?
It's kind of using Svelte's magical syntax down there.
Oh, okay. I see. That is interesting. I would not have thought of that. All right. I will. Yeah. All right.
So, yeah.
I'll abstain from that. All right. So we have Firebase auth. And so what I want to do is I want to create like, I just want to create like a button that's like sign in. And then what is it with Svelte? Is it $? What? How do you assign click events in Svelte?
We could actually, you can do on, to handle a click event, you could do on:click.
That's it.
And then add your, yeah, like that.
And then is it like this? I cannot remember. And then it would be like, sign in. Is it like this?
Sort of. So this is kind of why one thing that Svelte Fire can actually help out with, because there's a user component that can give us access to do all this stuff.
Oh, I thought user would just render the user. So yes, enlighten me.
So if we go into the Firebase app and then declare the user component, I can show you some kind of like magic tricks this component can do.
Let's do it.
So we have this user. This will give us context to the currently authenticated user.
Okay.
And in order to access the user's data, you can use what's called a slot prop. And in this case, that prop name is called user. So if you do let:user,
right,
and do that inside the, yeah, right there. That'll give you access to a variable called user at this point that you can now access, like the user's display name, user's email address, and all that stuff.
So what is it? What's the rendering with Svelte? Is it just like,
yeah, braces like that.
Okay, cool.
So when the user's logged in, you'll be able to get that display name. Now, when the user's logged out, which they will be initially, there's a slot that we can use called signed out in this case. So you could create a div or any kind of HTML element inside here with a slot of signed out. Well,
so is it like similar to this?
No, not like that, but inside the actual HTML, like first create a div inside of user.
All right.
And then give it an attribute of slot that's equal to signed-out. And so everything rendered inside this div will be for the signed out user. So like this is where we want to put a button for the user to sign in, basically. So like in this particular component, it's going to show that anything that's inside the user tags will be shown to the signed in user. And when they're signed out, it will render what's inside the signed out slot.
Is there, so is Svelte that smart where like this is rendered when they're signed out, and does this not get rendered at all if someone is signed out?
Yeah, exactly. If they're,
oh wow, that's some magic right there. Because I was like, how do I block this one for signed in? But you don't have to. That's like,
right. It's very magical, and like this is one thing that when I was designing this library, I wasn't sure if I wanted to make it this magical, and we may want to change this in the future, but we could just have a user and then use like an if statement or an if block, do like if else, and have it be a little more explicit in the actual, end user code.
Yes, that's pretty amazing. All right. All right. So inside of here is when we do the sign in. Is there any,
so we can actually, because we already have Firebase, we can actually say let let auth inside the user component.
That's what I was wondering. So like this.
And that'll give you access to Firebase auth right here in this component. So now you can just use it in the template, which would be
anonymously. I don't think that's how you spell anonymously. Sign in.
Why?
No. Anonym.
ANONY. ANONYMOUSLY.
Sorry, yeah, it broke up right as you said that. So ANONY. O.
MO, yeah. Get rid of that O. I think that's good.
That is a weird word, anonymously.
Yeah,
I had really learned it at one point, and it has recently, my brain flushed it out. All right, sign in anonymous.
You need to get a more alcohol anonymous to get it down.
I am, yeah. There are certain words that I just can't spell. Like I actually, one I've recently conquered is restaurant. I just couldn't spell restaurant for the longest time. Every time I'd spell it, I'd be like, it's not going to work. And so I built an app like 6 months ago all about restaurants, just so I could learn how to spell restaurants.
Oh, nice. That's one way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, but my fingers would just never learn it. That
I probably couldn't even spell that for you right now. That's one of those weird words.
You have to think of like tar, like a Ford Taurus, and then it comes. And then the one I currently cannot spell is exercise.
Okay.
That I got to make an exercise app.
Yeah, that one I think I can spell, but it's weird how some words are like that.
So let's do this. So this will work. So this will just call that, and then okay. So the way let me ask you, and then you tell me if I'm right. So this user component, the original state or the initial state is that we will not be signed in. So it will say, please sign in, and then this button. And then since we have slotted auth, you can say auth.signin anonymously. And then that's going to trigger an on-auth state change, which I imagine the user component is wired to behind the scenes. And that will reactively turn this one off or hide this one and then show this one.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So how do I run this locally?
So from the terminal run, npm run dev is the command.
There we go.
Hot reloading and all that stuff.
npm run dev. All right, so now source main.js bundle. And while this is building, I'm also going to need, do you know what port this is going to run on?
Yeah, I think it should be localhost 5000.
5000. Okay. Well, let me get that set up, and let's dive into the questions while I set that up. So going back here, we have Ben. Ben goes, "Yo, David East. Yo, Ben. Your Firecast helped me out a lot. Glad to hear that. Could you explain why you should use Firestore in Firebase over Firestore in GCP?" So that's an interesting question, because Firestore in Firebase and Firestore in GCP are still the same Firestore. Same teams work on it. If you're referring to the UI, also a lot of that UI is very similar. I worked on the Firestore UI, and we worked with the GCP team on building that. So they're very cohesive together. It really depends on like exactly how you're trying to use Firestore. Are you trying to use it as something that's more on the server? Then you're going to get a lot of like affordances and stuff from like just trying to run something on App Engine or whatever server environment's going to have all of your nice flavor of runtime and stuff injected in there for you. Like your environment variables and whatnot and credentials. And but if you need it on the client, then you're probably going to spend more time in Firebase world. But together, they're kind of meant to be one and the same, just different places to do similar things. I hope that was a cohesive answer. I don't know if Jeff, you have any other knowledge on that.
Not exactly. No, I think you summed it up there pretty well. If you're using it in the front end in a Firebase project, you'll definitely want to make use of the Firebase SDKs to use Firestore.
So yeah, Ben, well, just hope that helped. Let us know if it didn't. Michael asks, and you can take this one, Jeff, because you're the Svelteite. Does Svelte integrate well with other frameworks such as Angular?
It does in certain ways. Like, so you could use Svelte to compile to web components, in which case you could just use a native web component directly in your Angular app or any other framework. And then you could pass props to it and stuff like that, just like a regular HTML element. You can also, with Svelte, just kind of bootstrap it into an element. So you could potentially have a Svelte app that's injected into an Angular app. So you're kind of like using the two together, but they don't necessarily like work together seamlessly. So it's, if you're building something, you'll use one or the other, but you could use two of them at the same time in a single application for the end user.
Awesome. Arjun said, yes, can be in any framework. Andres says, hola, Andres. And Lavi's over here throwing some shade. He's like, David needs some VS Code extensions and specifically a theme. I thought my theme was fine. I'm using a font that most people don't even use. I'm using Zeitung Mono Pro. I like it. It's a good font. And it's like, it doesn't have any, why am I blanking on the term? It doesn't have any of the ligatures, but I like it. Lav, you gotta let me know what VS Code extensions and themes do I need? How am I gonna up my game? I thought I was hipping with it. So
I'm not a huge fan of ligatures myself. I kind of prefer just to go with the actual text as opposed to ligatures, but that's just me.
I like ligatures, and then I don't care. I think like if I wish I could be like know how to build fonts, because then I would probably build really crazy ligatures.
That'd be kind of satisfying if you could do that. Like
for like arrow functions would actually be like a rocket ship or something like that. Like something just like more like wingdings.
Yeah, there you go. I'd probably make everything emojis, just have a whole bunch of emoji ligatures.
Okay, maybe we need to do live stream. We need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are in the app. So let's open this up. Let's go to the console, just to make sure. So I'm going to sign in anonymously. I click. Oh no, sign in anonymously is not a function.
Okay. Yeah, I see all you have to do there is remove the parentheses, I think.
Oh, because it's gonna. I see that's an interesting save. And yeah, then it so the call works. It just after that it just got so null for display name because it's anonymous. But then the UID. So we have a user. So that was fresh.
Oh yeah. So you notice how the signed out slot goes away, and now the default slot is shown, which is for the signed in user. So this is where we can build all the UI for our main app.
That is sweet. So now we have users signed in. Let me switch my screen. I'll do one more question. Jeff, is Svelte your first choice to build web apps now, or would you consider others? If it is, can you elaborate as to why?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think with all the frameworks, the ones that I work with would be Angular, React, Svelte, and Vue to some degree. Primarily, most of my experience is with Angular, but I also have a lot of experience with React and have been messing around with Vue and Svelte quite a bit lately as well. And really, it just comes down to a bunch of different trade-offs depending on what you prefer. Svelte has some trade-offs because it's a compiler, so the way it scales is a little different than other frameworks. Like, React ships its reactive runtime and the virtual DOM, which means you kind of have more overhead initially. But Svelte, because you're compiling every component, kind of scale or kind of like becomes larger faster than say something like React would.
Right.
So there's trade-offs. I mean, if you enjoy the way Svelte apps are built, then I would say, go with that, because ultimately it just comes down to whatever makes you most productive is probably going to be the best choice, because, all those frameworks can get the job done.
Great answer. All right, so let's load back up the app. And here we go. All right. So what is next, Jeff?
So from here, we now have a context to create the main application. So I'd probably create a new component at this point, maybe called the game.
Okay.
It'll serve as the main game UI.
So would I do that in like a separate file?
Yeah, just create a file called game.svelte, and that'll kind of be our starting point.
All right.
And so in here, you probably don't have the snippets configured, but we'll start with a script tag. And let's see, to start things off here, we might just want to start with some mock data. And what I'm thinking is we build out a CSS grid that has three columns and then 4 rows. So we have like the 9, because we're going to be doing 9 questions in the quiz itself. So we can do, we'll want like a box for each one of those. Each one of those questions, and then another box for each category of the actual questions on the game board.
All right. So I could, what if we did it like this, where we created it like as a map, and so you would have each key of the map be actually, well,
for right now, all we really need is an array to loop over. So I would just do array. Yeah, I just make the board an array.
You could, or you could do it like this. Actually, let me know if I'm getting crazy here. So you have columns. So columns would be like, a good category would be like operators, keywords, potables.
There you go. Yeah, let's do three categories for right now. So that's
all right. Yeah. So do that, and then you could do let questions. And
for this, I would just do array fill here. So you can just create an array with some empty elements, and then because we'll be pulling these from Firestore eventually.
Is it like, I haven't used array fill. Is it like this?
You're creating an actual array, or actually I don't remember. Actually, I think we need to create a new array here. So do array parentheses with the number.
Oh. That's what I would.
No, you had it right before with the actual array class.
Oh,
I see. The array class with the number, with parentheses, and then the number 9 for 9.
Yeah, okay. I see. Yeah. So this is going to be like
you have to do fill as well to fill the actual array up with actual data. And that could just be whatever the number is 0.
There we go. So is that going to give us 0 across all? Here, let's take a look.
That'll just give us something to loop over, and we can put in some static data for right now.
Okay, let's get to that in a second. Because I was thinking about trying to destructure it by creating like a board where it's like, that's actually not going to work the more I think about it. I was going to make like a 2D array, but sometimes 2D arrays, they're nice when you have the iteration down, but they're a little like complicated to handwrite.
Right. Yeah, there's probably in JavaScript, there's like a million ways to do everything. So I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do that.
Okay, so we have columns and questions. How else? So you want to do like a grid?
Yeah, at this point, I would probably switch gears to CSS grid. So we can make just a little grid here fairly easily by doing, display grid. And then in the actual markup, I create a div that has this class. And then basically everything inside this will now be part of our grid. So we can loop over the questions and the columns, and they'll all be, positioned in this grid depending on how we decide to set them up.
So that looping in Svelte is like something like that.
Close. That the hashtag just needs to go inside the brackets.
Okay.
The braces.
And is it like for each?
It's actually just each.
Each.
And then you'll do the name of the iterable, which is, we'll loop over columns first. We'll have to do 2 separate loops here.
Okay.
And then as column. and then just close it out with a slash each.
So you have no hashtag. Okay. All right. All right. Do I need to, now this is a Svelte question for me. Do I have to export this for it to be used?
No, not in this case, because it's a local variable.
So the local component.
Yeah, export basically turns it into a prop that can be passed in from the parent component.
That's it. Okay, I couldn't remember the difference. Now that, okay, sweet. That learned things.
Yeah. Yeah, things in Svelte are very easy. They're like, usually if you don't know how to do something, and then once you figure it out, you'll be surprised at how easy it is. This is what I found with this framework.
It is very easy to pick up. Like, I'm happy that you're having me run through this rather than me stare at it, because as I type it myself, I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay. And
right.
It's been good. All right. So inside columns, do we just like, we're just going to like,
let's just add a, yeah. Okay. In this case, we have a column name. So let's just do a div that has that text inside.
H3. It feels like an H3.
I'd put a div inside there just because I'd wrap that in a div so we can add a class to it. That
good call.
Because we'll have to apply a class for the grid.
All right.
And then I would just create another loop that loops over the actual questions. But I'd make sure it's outside of this.
Oh, it's right. Yeah. Yes.
Because then we'll have a n squared loop.
That's fine in dev mode.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. All right. And so then I'll do the same thing. Div. And this will just be a question.
Yeah, I would just put some static text because I don't, yeah, right now it's just a
that's right.
0.
See that and be like fake text. Just to make sure it's stamping it out right. All right, so let's save. And so now I guess we should probably run this in the browser.
Yeah, let's check it out. We'll see how it looks for right now. But it's going to need some work to actually look like a grid.
Okay, well, let me go check the questions. So Lavi says that I could start with prettier. So I don't like prettier as a VS Code extension. That's just my opinion on things, but I like prettier as a build tool. And I like prettier that if I do like a git commit hook or like or some type of or CI process, I like prettier to just do its thing when it goes into code base. Like locally, to me, it just doesn't matter. You should be able to write any style you want, and then you commit it, but it's all the same uniform when it goes to source. So that's just my opinion on things. I know that's sort of a contentious topic. Ali asks, is there a good library for I18N and Svelte?
Not that I'm aware of. I think there's a community maintained library. I know there's definitely not an official library, but it'd be nice to see them add some kind of official support for that. Yeah, it's not like Angular where you have something out of the box ready to go.
Yeah. Let's go to these next few ones. And then he goes, maybe use Dracula theme. I don't like Dracula. It's not, I guess maybe you and I just think differently. And we already went through that one. Arjun says, excuse me, it's not a framework, it's a programming language.
Yeah, that's true.
Raul says he loves it.
Nice.
Right. So let's let me add this to the stream, and here we go. All right, so here's the one, but where is the? Oh, it's because Jeff, we did not add the tag.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll do that behind the scenes. It's a game. Can you do like a single close tag from?
Yeah, you can. Self-closing, yeah.
Self-close, thank you. Yes.
So currently, like when this loads, we should just see a bunch of divs stacked on top of each other.
So I don't know if I know how to import it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so to import it, you have to do. It's just like a regular ES import, but you have to include the whole .svelte name.
That's what I was going to ask.
Import game from game.svelte.
Is it a default or a named export?
It's a default, yeah.
That's how I was wondering. I was like, how we didn't create a name. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Has it changed? It has not changed. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to switch back to the app because I'm doing it all wrong. All right, 1 second. Share application window, VS Code. All right, so here in VS Code, this is what I did. Does this look right?
Yeah, that looks right.
And then I did this.
So that needs to be, we'll want to declare that inside the user component because it should still work. I'm surprised it's not
right,
but I guess we'd want it right there because we could throw the user as a prop or pass the user as a prop if we wanted to, I guess.
Let's see here. And this is, it looks like it's building. I'm just gonna kill the build and just do it one more time.
Yeah, it looks like that should work though.
Build is fun. Yeah, it's interesting how it runs off. It seems like behind the scenes it will take all of this stuff, turn it into JavaScript, and give it a default export.
Right. Yeah, and one thing I know that I think they're getting relatively close on is TypeScript support.
Yes,
that's the biggest missing thing in Svelte for me and a lot of other people is just native TypeScript support in your components. And I think they actually have someone from Microsoft contributing to that project. So hopefully,
yes, Orta. He I know him originally through CocoaPods. He was originally on CocoaPods, so he has quite the career. Okay, so interesting thing is, interesting. Okay. So now I'm getting, there's a little.
We're just seeing the code right now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to just switch the screen. Let's do that real quick. The funny thing is that, once you get one problem, you get more after that. So I have auth argument error, but it's the reverse problem we had before, where when we called it, it broke when I didn't.
I see what happened here. So it was broken from the very beginning, because what's happening is Svelte is passing the event to sign in anonymously, and that's causing Firebase to throw this error. So we can fix that by just creating an anonymous function in the actual handler itself.
All right.
So we'll have to go back to the code to do that.
I'll just do it behind the scenes. Magic.
Okay.
1 second. There we go. But this one, I don't know what I did. Okay. Oh, I also think it might be because I'm directly returning it. Is that actually? We'll figure this out. It's somewhat working. It's all part of the plan. All right. So we have operators, keywords, potentables, and we have the 0-fake text for each one. All right. So we have this.
So now our goal, things are stacked on top of each other, but our goal is to have three columns. So you have the actual category names at the top of the columns, and then all the 9 questions as a grid underneath that.
Right.
So we can do that. We'll have to go back to our CSS to handle that, and we'll add some tweaks to our grid CSS.
All right, let's go back to the app. And like I said, make sure to keep asking us questions. We will get to them when we break between the code. Let's share screen and go back to the app that's felt. Okay, cool. So here's an app that's felt. Let's move to game.svelte, display grid. All right, so here's the grid. So what's the next move?
So with the grid, in the actual grid class, we're going to need to display our rows and columns. So we can start with the columns, which would be the grid template columns property, I believe. Grid template columns, and this takes units, which if you want kind of a responsive unit, you can use fractional units.
Right.
And in this case, to make 3 evenly sized columns, we could do 1FR, 1FR, 1FR.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. I'm still a bit of a noob with grid. I know Flexbox too well to break from it.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of weird to get used to, and there's a lot of different ways you can use grid, but once you get it down, it's like really good for feeds and a lot of different use cases. Just
it is amazing.
Simplify your code, yeah.
All right, so we have the template columns.
Yeah, so that'll give us our columns. And then we could also do grid template rows here as well if we wanted to size the different rows. Because I think with our rows, we'll probably want the category to be a little bit smaller. So maybe do that as like 1 fractional, or we could do that as like, in my mind, it makes more sense to do like 0.5 is the fractional unit for the first row, and then just do the remaining rows as 1, make them evenly sized.
So like this?
Yeah, I think that should work.
Let's see. I think it's starting to come to shape. Let's go share the screen. Let's see here. Oh, let me look at the comments. We have which framework CSS best matches with the philosophy of Svelte? Tailwind CSS?
It could be. I mean, like Tailwind does kind of make sense with Svelte. It's kind of like a, because you're generally building small components, and that can be a good way to style small, like reusable components. But I don't think they've really decided on that. There isn't like any specific CSS framework that I think goes perfect with Svelte. It can be whatever you prefer, whether that's Bulma or Bootstrap or Material. There's different options there.
Yeah, I think best is subjective to your to what your best is.
Right.
I love Tailwind, and I actually have while I haven't done a lot with Svelte, like the first thing I did was learn how to hook up Tailwind with Svelte. And I like using Tailwind. I love it. It's my favorite. Mohammed asks, how does routing work in Svelte? Actually, I want to know this one too.
So there's no official router in Svelte, so it's a community maintained router, but I think the most popular one is very similar to React Router, where you have like an actual route component, and then you have, I think, some kind of like switch component where you figure out, which components those routes point to. So yeah, I would just think React Router is probably the most common approach.
Our next question was actually answered for us. So he asked, do you use live share? Is only David typing? And then Arjun was like, David is typing and Jeff is virtually looking over his shoulder, which is exactly what's happening. Yeah,
next time we should do VS Code live share though. I think that would be,
I did that with Jason Miller of Preact, and it did not go well. We may have done something wrong, or we may have fixed the problem by then, or whatever it was. But we ran into this like infinite. You can go look back at the video too. We're like talking, and everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden, it just keeps duplicating the last line of text in the live share over and over and over and over and over again.
Interesting.
And we couldn't figure out how to solve it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't work with it very much, so.
Lavi asked a question for us both, NPM or Yarn. Whatever the project is using.
Yeah, I go with NPM as the default. Like the value that Yarn used to add, I think NPM is kind of caught up and has all the feature parity with Yarn. So I don't see a huge reason to use Yarn in today's world for the most part.
Yarn, one thing about Yarn that is nice is, and I don't know if NPM has a similar thing, because is Yarn workspaces, and we use Yarn workspaces in the Firebase SDK repo, I believe we do, but we also use it in our React Fire repo, and it's really nice because you can effectively point like basically development packages to be used inside other development packages without having to like npm link and like tarball things up. So it's that I like a lot, but that's not everyone needs that.
Yeah, That's nice. I think pretty soon everybody's just going to be using Deno anyway, so we don't worry about these things very much.
Ben goes, yo, 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 David East. Yo, 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 Ben. That answered my question earlier. Thank you. Thank you. Another quick question. Is Firebase considered a stepping stone into GCP and is seen as a tool that beginners use or not? So Firebase can be a stepping stone into GCP if that's what you end up needing, or it cannot be. They're meant to be used simultaneously or not simultaneously. It's sort of like choose your own adventure. Firebase can be a tool that beginners use, and also is a tool that not a lot of advanced people use. I think it's just there's no specific route planned for that at all. So it's just really what works best for you. Firebase can be very sophisticated. It also can do things really simple. GCP also has similar things, just, whatever works best. Ali asks if Firebase will support Deno. I don't know. Sorry, I'll see.
I was wondering that myself. Like, I think I was looking at the Firebase admin SDK because that's what you would want to run in Deno, and it seems like it would be pretty difficult. But I think Deno is working on ways to interop between existing node packages. So if there's like a good interop path there, then I think it could probably be supported.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I would think. Is you're waiting for more of the story of the interop between the two. I mean, the Firebase admin SDK is written all in TypeScript. So I don't know, maybe there might be some like transforms you might be able to apply. I don't really know. I don't know a ton about Deno, other than just all the Twitter hype it's been receiving lately, and learning about it when Ryan Dahl did his talk on it years ago. So it's super cool. It seems really exciting. Just gotta learn more. But we'll see. I would expect in the future that would be a thing. And Mohammed asks, what is the community maintained router that you called that you mentioned, Jeff?
I think it's just Svelte router.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Look it up here real quick. Yeah, just Svelte router.
All right. Now I'm like, what were we doing? Boom. Okay, look at that.
Cool. See,
it's gridded.
Yeah, you can see we've got a little bit of an issue here. It'd make more sense if we had actual background colors or something going on, but
right.
Our questions aren't evenly spaced, so we need to actually add a couple more fractional rules. Or I think that we could probably do some kind of auto sizing here, but since it's fixed, I would just do 2 more 1FR properties in that
in rows.
Yeah,
2 more 1FRs.
Yeah, so
I'm just gonna do it behind the scenes, so I don't have to switch the page. Is it gonna work? Let's see what happens. I have the
another thing we'd want to do here is make the actual grid itself like fill up the entire height. I would actually probably just do I'd probably make the grid 100 view width and 100 view height, just so it takes up the entire screen.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And all of our columns and rows will auto size based on the viewport size.
I'm just adding the 100 VH, 100 VW behind the scenes, so I don't have to switch the screens. And then it's update. There we go. All right, let's just do that. Cool. It's not perfectly centered, but I think that's because of probably some weirdness we have going on with multiple. We're not really using a reset CSS. So when you don't use reset CSS, there's all the weird sort of default margins and paddings applied. So that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, and Svelte has its own CSS that it comes with out of the box. So we just need to go and delete that. It's in the public folder.
And I did see that. Here, let's switch back now. Let's see here. Stop the screen. Let's share the screen. I do so many things. All right. So here we are. In here, let's open up the drawer, public global CSS. Oh yeah, you do. There is lots of I do want box sizing quarter box though. But oh yeah, there's 8 paddings on the body. What is going on in here? I do like this stuff.
Yeah, that should fix it. Taking that out.
I do want to get rid of that though. I don't need that. That. What is this all doing? I'm like, okay, it's all really. It is mostly basic, but the padding is padding and this very like implicit padding and margin is always like a killer.
Yeah, I find like in my projects, I spend a lot more time working on CSS than probably even JavaScript. Like I spend a huge amount of time on CSS just because it, to make a project really look good, it takes a lot of effort.
It very much does. That's why I like Tailwind, because it, like you can write your own Tailwind, but I like Tailwind because it uses very consistent like measurements across. So like, py-2, px-2, and then that way you 1em, 2em, or 1 rem, 2 rem, 4 rem, and then that way this consistent spacing is really nice, and you can override that to your own. But I just like something that kind of provides direction, and then that way things just look a little better.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach. You have to, I guess, be careful. Like with Tailwind, you have so many classes in the markup.
Yes,
when you use it, are usually like once you find a style you like, do you kind of extract that into its own?
So I should
simplify things, or
I should. And I have before, and when I do, it's really nice, but I'm really lazy most of the time. And so what I do is I just create these presentational components that are like slotted, basically, that, if like child, and then I will just throw it in that. and then that it's effectively philosophically the same thing. And it's just so I don't have to worry so much about reapplying that, because I like that I can, if I keep it in this presentational component, it's kind of like isolated there. And then if I change it in the presentational component, it's good. But then as soon as I call it like card, or like profile card, and then I have to maintain that in 2 separate files.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's but I think in a lot of cases though, when it's component based classing, I think that's fine. But as soon as it becomes like composed utility classing, where you're like, it's going to be used not just on a component, then that for sure needs to be condensed down.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so this is up there and running. So what do you want to do next? We have like 7 minutes left. Do you think that's enough time to try to sync some questions or some actual Firestore data? Since we did say Firestore in the title.
Yeah, we could try, because actually SvelteFire makes it really easy. So let's try to knock that out really quick.
Sweet. All right, let's share screen.
So, and actually never mind. Yeah, I was gonna. One thing with SvelteFire is if you have the user, you can easily pull in like related data or relational data from Firestore, but we don't actually need to do that in this case.
Okay. Let me delete this little tempted checklist I had. And so up here we have a collection. So is this what we're going to be using?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's import doc and collection in the game component.
Oh, in the game component? All right.
Yep.
I'm going to import. I'm just going to copy this online.
These components work similar to the auth component, where they have an initial loading state, and then once the data loads, then it'll display that data in the default slot or give you access to that data. And it keeps it synced up in real time, and it unsubscribes when the component's destroyed automatically.
Nice.
So you just kind of, just takes care of everything for you.
All right, so I have doc and collection. What do I do next?
So now, in our data modeling, we set up a game. I'm trying to remember exactly. We set up a game document.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and just wrap this entire component with the doc component, so we can reference that game document.
Like this?
Yep. Yeah, just like that. And the argument that it takes is the actual path to the document in the database, which can either be a string or a Firebase document reference.
Oh, interesting.
So in this case, In the database, I have it set up as, so the path will be games slash, let's see here, game slash one, or one spelled out like ONE.
All right.
So this should automatically read that document and then display the data here as the default slot. So let me see what's on that actual document. Yeah, so the game, I'll go ahead and add some data to this game just because it doesn't really have. This will just kind of show you how it can be used to read data from the document. Let's just maybe give the game a title, I guess.
All right.
So you can add like a title property in there and see it.
Is that like, oh, do I have to do like a slot like this? Like, is it gonna be like this?
So yeah, it'll be let data in this case.
Oh, let data like this.
Yeah, and you could rename this if you want to call it game data. You could say equals game data.
Oh, like.
And then yeah, like that, but do brackets around it.
Brackets like.
Or braces, I should say. Yeah, like that. Now you can reference game data inside here.
Okay, so
actually we have columns on this document. They're not columns. Yeah. They're not called columns, but let's see here. So we have game categories.
Categories.
So, yeah. So where you're doing the each columns, just do each game categories as column.
The game data categories like this.
Mm. Yep. And let's see. I think that's all we have to do in this case, actually.
All right. That was easy. It's like.
And we can also manage a loading state, and we can also have a fallback state if there's no data available on this document.
Oh, yeah? How do you do that?
So there's slots. If you set up a div of loading, it's going to show you a loading state, like a spinner you want to put there when the document's loading initially.
What's the slot?
So be slot equals loading.
That.
And then, yeah, then whatever loading indicator you want to put in there.
All right. Save that and let's check it out in the app. All right, let's switch in. So make sure if you have any questions left, make sure to get them in because we're going to end this thing in 2 minutes. All right, let's stop screen, share screen, and Svelte app, share. Look at that. Functions are funny. JS history before and after.
So yeah, that's actual live data from Firestore. So yeah, super easy to access your data. And what's cool is you have context to now add components where you can like join together relational data. And I was hoping we get to that point in this video, but I think we'll have to push that off to the next one.
I'll have to do that next time. I think though, next time I will be much better off because this is my big foray into Svelte. Right. So I feel much more capable next time.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome. I'm actually going to do a Svelte video on my YouTube channel tomorrow, hopefully.
Nice.
It doesn't involve Firebase, but just mostly UI, a lot of CSS, and a bunch of like little tricks that you'll probably find useful.
Nice. The last couple questions here. Adair says, Jeff, the current version of SvelteVire is 0.1.4. When will the next updates be?
It's a good question. I'm not sure exactly. There's a few things that I want to add and a few minor bugs to fix and things like that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't have a good answer there.
Lavi asks, is this app going to be open source now or in the future? I think it's, well, Jeff, I cloned this repo from Jeff.
Yeah, it's open source. Right now it's just an empty template, but we'll be updating that as we build it out. So yeah, it'll definitely be open source for sure.
And Arjun says, have a good day. If I'm bored, check out Ryan's announcement talk video. I'm never bored. It's like I'm always bored. And then looking forward to the Svelte video.
Nice.
And also looking forward to the Svelte video. And I guess the last question we'll take, since we just ran over, is Mohammed, what do you think, Mohammed asks, what do you think of Angular material components? Do you want to take this one, Jeff? Or do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, Angular material is an awesome library. I used it in my Angular course. And if you like material design and want to use it, I mean, there's no better library than that.
I also love their CDK as well, the component development kit, which gives you all the like drag and drop lists and just the amount of they abstract all of these really difficult things to do, and it's just insane how easy it is to like drag and drop items across multiple lists and restrict which ones they go to. It's really easy for how difficult of a task it is.
Yeah, and that's actually what we did in the course is we built a Kanban sort of feature where you can drag things and it syncs it up to Firestore and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
CDK is like essential to do that stuff quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, so I did my ngconf video, did the Kanban, and then it was just so easy. It's integrating with Firestore actually involved less code than having it in memory.
Right. Nice.
Cool. Well, everybody, thank you all so much for coming out. We're going to keep hack-attacking on this app until we get it into shape where we can have a JavaScript Jeopardy with everybody. So thank you all so much for coming to this video, and we will see you on the next broadcast. So you all have a great day.
Well, thanks, everybody. See you later.